Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm looking at a two-part Spider-Man Hulk classic. Or is it? Thanks for joining me today. I ran a poll to see if you guys wanted to see this two-parter in 1 or 2 episodes, and the one episode just kind of barely won out, so I'm doing this for you guys. 1 episode to cover these 2 issues. But before I jump into it, I just want to give a quick shout out to all the viewers' support. Every like, comment, and subscription is appreciated. So if you're enjoying this positive comic content, please consider hitting the thumbs up. Comments are always enjoyed. And if you haven't already, why not hit subscribe so you never miss any future episodes? I created this channel to entertain, inform, and maybe even inspire you to read some comics. If you think that's a good message and think other comic fans need that in their feed, then your likes, shares, and subs tell the YouTube algorithm to put it in front of them. Now let's get back into this two-parter. So this crossover takes place in Web of Spider-Man 44, it's the first part, and Incredible Hulk number 349. This is continuing on my coverage of the Peter David Hulk era. And Peter David is the author of both of these books. Obviously, we're going to have different artists. So let's go ahead and start looking at the Web of Spider-Man first. First impressions of this cover, I don't love it. It seems kind of generic. Probably one of the best shots of the Hulk in a suit so far. Even on the 2 Joe Fixit issues that we've seen, he wasn't completely dressed like that. These characters, they're just like in military fatigues. They have funny haircuts. I don't know. Nothing about this screamed out to me like, I love this. And even as a kid, I missed this issue. I got the Hulk issue from the convenience store that I was buying books at the time. They must not have carried this Web of Spider-Man because I didn't see this for a couple of years later. For the longest time, I just read the Hulk issue. And I don't know that if you read this, you kind of need to read the Hulk issue for the resolution. But I don't know that you 100% needed to read this issue. But let's just dive in and look at it. Peter David is the writer, like I said. Alex Saviuk, I guess that's how you say his name. Keith Williams are on art duties. It's okay. It's nothing about this is going to like knock my socks off. Really, it's very vanilla, I think. I mean, I hate to knock anybody necessarily, but I mean, this is a pretty cool opening panel, I guess. And maybe the color is overdone too. In this Web of Spider-Man issue, I will say, as I get into it, Peter David overindulges in the humor of this Spider-Man book that he doesn't do quite as heavily in the Hulk book. And I thought that was kind of interesting considering it's the same writer. But I don't know a ton of what Peter David was doing on Web of Spider-Man at the time. I know a lot of people love Peter David's writing on Spider-Man. There's certain issues I like and certain storylines I've read that I like, but I've never read like all of his Spider-Man to be able to make a full-on, oh, he was a great Spider-Man writer. But this particular one, I just felt like he was leaning so hard into making it kind of funny that it somewhat hurts the Hulk issue after it. So let me just get into it. Spider-Man is in Las Vegas, and he's here because Peter Parker is promoting his book Webs, which was, just pictures of Spider-Man, which I always liked that idea. That Peter Parker was doing something to make a little extra money aside from just selling them to the newspaper, that he was able to compile them and make a pretty cool book. And I thought that was a pretty good idea back in the day. He's swinging through Las Vegas. Like I said, he's there to promote a book, and his spider sense goes off for a second, and then he's like, that's weird, it stopped. And we first meet one of these first military guys, and then he goes on about his business. Now we're going to see the military guys, and they're like sitting around with each other, kind of chatting and discussing a game they're going to play or some kind of contest they're having. But they're friendly right here, right? Here we have Marlo that we've met in the Hulk book. If you hadn't been reading the Hulk book, this would have been completely out of left field to you. And she's going to visit Mr. Fixit. And this is just like the tone that's already been set in the previous 2 issues. I don't think this fits for her to like show up and surprise him at his door. And now this kind of works because the Hulk is already being cranky about feeling Banner reemerging. The Hulk has not been turning back into Banner for an unspecified amount of time. We're going to assume it's been a few months. He's working in Las Vegas as more or less a bouncer. He's been set up with this woman they've said she's very tall. She's tall and beautiful. She's like a tall Mary Jane is what she is. Anyway, and he's being cranky and he slams the door in her face. So here's our military people. They're like getting dressed and watching on the TV Peter Parker being interviewed about his book. And they keep calling him Peter Palmer, and then she calls him Paul, and she keeps getting his name wrong and stuff. And that's what I'm saying. It's repeatedly. It's funny. It's saying like Peter's not really that important. This book isn't really that important, kind of making a joke of it. It didn't land for me because I feel like a talk show host, no matter how small or unimportant something seems to be, they're going to get that information correct. And it just came across kind of corny. Marlo's also sitting at the bar and she's like, oh, that guy on TV is pretty cute. And then this other guy's, he's obviously drunk. His word balloon is all like squiggly with little, starburst around it, like he's had too much to drink and he's trying to flirt with her and she's ignoring him. Look at that, 3 pages for that Columbia House ad. And the jokes just keep going on. The guy keeps hitting on her. She eventually just throws a drink on him to get him to back off. And then she's like sitting there thinking like, he's real cute. I wonder if he's doing anything, or I wonder if he's doing a book signing any place. And then they mention that he's going to be at a place called Page After Page. And they're not really paying attention to what's going on the TV. They're more just getting their stuff together. Individually. Notice that it's individually. And then they're on the way. He's getting a limo ride to this Page After Page place, and I guess the publicist or the person who's supposed to be showing him around. And first she's gassing him up. She's like, oh, it's so exciting to know somebody that knows Spider-Man. She's like, I won't even bore you with all the other authors I've worked with. And then starts listing off like big names like Stephen King and Douglas Adams and so on. She mentions Alan Moore, though he was kind of scary looking. And Peter's just like, oh, this can't be any worse. And that's just like the humor. And then it gets even more. Page After Page turns out to be a comic book store. And the joke is nobody's showing up for Peter to sign these books. And like, I don't know. I think there would be Spider-Man fans out there that would show up at a comic book store. And the shop owner's being real nice, saying, I've been promoting it for 2 weeks that you're coming. And you should have seen when Chris Claremont was here. They were lined up out the door. And the mob scene for Tom DeFalco. Phew. And I think that was a joke because Tom DeFalco, at this point, I think Tom DeFalco is probably editor-in-chief. Yep. Anyway, and Marlo's going to see Peter. Like, this is dumb to me. I'm sorry. This is dumb. What we're establishing in the Hulk book, Peter David has gone, like, off the chain here. I don't know what he's doing. So she's on her way to go to this Page After Page to the book signing, partly to make Mr. Fixit jealous. It's so corny. It's funny though that this kid is bringing a Star Brand book for him to sign, of all things. And then it just so happens that this one girl of the military guy is also walking past the store. There's Marlo coming down the street, and this guy with a bazooka shoots at her. Peter's spider sense goes off. Coming at her, blows up, and Marlo steps up like, what's going on? And the woman smacks her, which makes her hit her head against the pole, and she's just out. So Marlo has been hurt. All of this to get Marlo hurt is her looking at Peter on TV, going to the Page After Page place, was all in the line of, we've got to hurt Marlo to get the Hulk more involved later on. So she throws off her jacket, and now they're like shooting at each other and stuff. Peter, of course, does a Superman thing and gets involved as Spider-Man. And at first he's kind of like, what's going on to the girl? And she's like, that lunatic up there is trying to kill me. You should help me. And he's like, well, you're not exactly dressed for prom. Or he says something like that. Sunday brunch. Anyway, so I like this where 2 more rockets from the bazooka, which are drawn kind of funny for bazooka rockets, but they're coming and he's able to, I guess, just envelop them in web to where they blow up inside the web. And then it's just mayhem. Mayhem where Spider-Man's kind of on her side, but he's not quite sure what's going on. He just kind of wants to stop the destruction. And when he notices Marlo over to the side, he's like, she's hurt. I've got to help her. So he sticks a tracer on him, picks her up to take her to the hospital. He's like, you stay here. I'm going to be back, and we're going to chat about whatever this is, craziness going on. And she's like, yeah, no problem. And she does, because now she's wanting to use Spider-Man as a pawn in this little thing that these people are doing. He takes her to the hospital. Her roommate happens to be a nurse at the hospital. These dated nurse outfits. I don't think nurses were wearing dresses like this and little nurse hats like that in the 90s. They were probably already wearing like scrubs and that kind of stuff. Anyhow, the roommate leaves and she calls up Mr. Fixit and dresses him down. And now this is pretty in line with the kind of the way the Hulk's been acting in the other book. He's still pretty cranky, and the roommate says, she's been hurt, and I thought you should know. So she's hurt. What's that to me? And she blesses him out, and he crushes the phone. Cut back to Spider-Man with the girl in the military fatigues, and she's not really given a truthful thing. She said they're both mercenaries. They used to be an item, but they've broke it off, and now he's harassing me. And to Spider-Man's credit, he's like, harassing you is calling you with heavy breathing and stuff. Shooting rockets at you is a whole nother level. Anyway, so then they go back to the casino. Why were they going to that casino? I'm not quite sure. They were going back to the casino that the Hulk happens to work in. And this other guy comes out. Her name is Charlie. I should have said that. Her name is Charlie, and the other guy, I think, was Delta, and this is Alpha. He's got the A. And Spider-Man does make a joke about what is like another one, Alpha. And he says, Alpha, Delta, I'm fighting a frat house. And also, and who walks up? Joe Fixit, fully dressed in his nice clothes. Now, I do find something interesting here. When he turns around and Spider-Man sees him, you're like, no, it can't be. He's supposed to be green. He's supposed to be stupid. He's supposed to be dead. But that voice, that face, Mr. Fixit is the Hulk. I find that interesting because really, since the Hulk has turned gray, he's interacted with X-Factor and Wolverine. And other than that, he hadn't really interacted with any other Marvel characters for them to know that he was gray at this point. At least in the issues we've read since he was gray, there's not been any like, oh, the Hulk was on the news or this or that to maybe show that he was gray. They never like really established that. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, like the Avengers wouldn't know it, but it would be interesting for Spider-Man at this point. And we're talking 1988. The Hulk has been gray for a good 2 years of comic time now. Well, a good 2 years of real world time. I don't know how many like months that's been in the comics, but for him to be like, he's supposed to be green. So that's it for the Web of Spider-Man part. Now we jump into the Hulk issue. As I said before, I had just read this issue for the longest time. I don't know when I got that Web of Spider-Man issue, but it was a couple of years after, and then I was like filling in holes and stuff and realized I probably went back and read the run and was like, oh, I should have got that Web of Spider-Man issue, and I didn't. But here we go. So this is where I think this one starts out in a way that this is almost all you need. It's called Warzone. I am convinced that Jeff Purves is doing this stuff, at least this part of the lettering, as well as quite a bit of like sound effect lettering and stuff in the artwork. We got Purves again, who I've been kind of heaping some praise on. I know he was such a drastic change from McFarlane, and a lot of people don't love that. I don't love this issue from Purves either. There's parts I like. I don't think he nails Spider-Man. And I'm also kind of thinking that the coloring by Petra Scotis does not help the book. I don't think it helped that Wolverine issue, and I don't think it helps really Purves' art much in any of these issues I've looked at in this reread. So we're starting out the Hulk. This is kind of recap of what's happening in the Web of Spider-Man issue, and it told you to go buy that. Somehow I missed that as a kid or just didn't care. This is where I just don't think he nails it. It's like he has too few webs. You know, McFarlane has moved on to Amazing Spider-Man at this point. That is the Spider-Man that kids my age were loving. Big eyes, lots of intricate webbing, and it just doesn't do it. I think the panel layout and the storytelling flow is good. I do like this particular panel of the Hulk, of that angle, like kind of looking out from under his hat. So this guy is saying, like, I'm just here to kill her. The Hulk is like, oh, you're the one that hurt Marlo, so whatever, you guys can take care of it yourself, just don't do it in here, go outside. Spider-Man, of course, is not down with that, so he tries to web up I think his name's Delta. I get confused by which one is which. And he hits, like, I like the way that the webbing does, like, kind of splatter on the Hulk's arm there. And it's almost backtracking a little bit, too, with Spider-Man not realizing that it's the Hulk. He's kind of questioning if it's the Hulk or not, whereas at the end of that last issue, he's like, it is the Hulk. But now he's kind of like, this can't be the Hulk. The Hulk's dead, but he's pretty big like the Hulk and moves like the Hulk. So this is kind of just a throwdown issue. I mean, in that vein, I think this is like, it's fun because it's just a lot of action. I think the setup of these military people is kind of dull. Especially because, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, the Web of Spider-Man would have been their first appearance, but this is like their one and only appearance in Marvel. Maybe they've shown up at some later point in some other book, but yeah, you just don't see them again. So it's like, why are they important, you know? So they're going at each other. They're going to this like little chapel. Spider-Man's going to try to follow because he's trying to just stop him. He kind of wants to save her because that's the one he kind of got mixed up with. But at the same time, he's also trying to just stop the damage. You know, they're doing this out in like Las Vegas, and he doesn't want people getting hurt. The Hulk gets Spider-Man to come up into a parking garage by throwing chunks of car out of the garage. He's like, come on up here, Spider-Man, or I'm going to keep throwing chunks of car out into the street and maybe hit a pedestrian. But he wants him up in the parking garage where it's more confined, and he can get to Spider-Man a little easier. Interesting panel layout that goes this way. This Spider-Man head looks pretty good. It's basic, but I like it, and I do like the way like I said, the panels go like this, just different. We start to see these people they mention a few times how fast they move, that they're not just normal people. They all have like some sort of super ability, some strength and stuff. And now this one's sitting up there just kind of watching the other two do their thing. Nice little panel there of the Hulk, of Spider-Man giving the Hulk an uppercut. Wonk. Another 3-page ad for Columbia House. They're really pumping it there. Here's our Mr. Gold, who's been set up as a rival to Berengeti, the guy who employs the Hulk. And it turns out he actually works for somebody else, and they're displeased with his work, so they come in and just take him out. Interesting panel here with the background rays of light coming in, I guess, from the doorway there. But this Mr. Gold in his straw hat gets taken out. Little subplot. Purves is liking doing this. He's liking doing these like little panels that are crooked to show some kinetic energy, I suppose. I like the Hulk doing his thunderclap. I like the way that the lettering is breaking the panels. Spider-Man, the way he's being affected with the reverberations around his body. I like this hit. I like these like shock waves around the Hulk's arm. All of that's pretty good. We got crack with a Q again. All of this is pretty fun. Like the Spider-Man Hulk stuff, they're just kind of duking it out is fun. Then we get back to our military people that are just, ew. He steals a Zuzu Trooper and says he's always wanted one of these. I mean, I remember Zuzu Troopers. I remember having a friend in high school that had a Zuzu Trooper. I remember seeing them on the road a lot. I don't ever remember them being like the it car that people really want, off-roading car that people wanted. Maybe that was, and I just wasn't observant. Anyway, he steals in a Zuzu Trooper, and they start heading out to the desert, which, is fine by Spider-Man. Except for these two, they're still in that little quickie wedding chapel. She is, I guess, known for throwing knives and using bows and arrows, and she says he counted his machine gun fire, and he's like, a machine gun? Sure you did. Click. And she did. He picks up this candelabra and skewers her with it. And it appears that she's dead. Spider-Man loses it. The Hulk, well, they hear the scream. They go to check it out, and the girl, Charlie, that Spider-Man has been kind of with and assuming like her story was true about them being mercenaries that used to work together, is pretty upset about it. And he loses it. And the Hulk doesn't care. He's like, good, it's over. Like, whatever. Spider-Man's going to go off to try to, get the other people that were involved in it. And the Hulk's kind of looking at her funny there. And then he decides to take off. Whoosh. Cut to the desert. You see the other two. The guy shows up in the Zuzu Trooper. He's talking about how he promised the guy to get his car back. The car gets blown up. One looks like they're down for the count. This guy's back in Vegas. I like this sign he's on. Again, I think that's Jeff Purves, which this, where it says Casino Restaurant, the way Casino is written is a lot like one of the titles in the first Joe Fixit issue. I think it was Crapshoot, and crap was written like that. And I think that's why I'm thinking Purves is doing a lot of this lettering of this kind of stuff himself. So he's there, and then Spider-Man swings in and knocks him down. All of a sudden, people are crowding around to get an ambulance. She's like, an ambulance? Why do we need one of those? And she gets up. All of a sudden, she's alive. And then she says, well, I'm out of this one. He got me fair and square. And then the Hulk returns. Aha, just as I thought. And he says he noticed that she wasn't bleeding, and he wants answers now. Back to Spider-Man. He's fighting. The guy shooting ends up hitting that sign he was standing on. And Spider-Man doesn't want to let it fall to the ground and hit all the other people. The Hulk shows up. And I love this part where he just snaps the guy's arm, like rips his arms off. And now we're revealed they are cyborgs of some sort. And then he kind of messes with Spider-Man. He's like, oh, Spider-Man, are you ticklish? And he's like, don't do it. And then the Hulk puts the sign back. He just puts it back. And then he explains to Spider-Man what's going on. Great panel here. I love these small horizontal panels of the eyes. McFarlane did it so well. Purves kind of doing a similar thing here. Maybe not as good as the way McFarlane did it, but I still love it. Then back in here, you think this guy's down for the count, and he's rigged these cactuses to shoot him up. Now the Hulk explains what's going on. They have some kind of like amulet or something that they are fighting over, but they work together. They're actually friends. And once a year, they have this little war game, and whoever wins the war game gets the amulet for that year. And then they do it again the next year at a different location. And they just happen to choose Las Vegas this time. Spider-Man and the Hulk happen to be there. and that's that. The Hulk tells him that, and Spider-Man kind of tries to be self-righteous about not helping and stuff. But the Hulk points out, if you hadn't gotten involved, that sign wouldn't have been in any kind of danger to fall on those people. So even if you help, you're putting people in danger. And if you don't help, you're putting people in danger. And I just showed up to rub that in your face. Wrap up with them saying like, okay, next year we're going to do it in Orlando or something. Shoot out at Epcot. Mr. Fixit returns to his hotel room to order some food, and look who is waiting on him. Dr. Doom. Setting up our next 2-part crossover. I like this panel here too. Good Doom. Both of these panels are really solid, I feel like. Purves is going to bring it coming up soon. I did want to point out one part that I thought was pretty funny that I kind of glossed over with Spider-Man and the Hulk. Where was it? Kind of in the beginning. So like a lot of times when characters are presumed dead, like the Hulk, you know, they want to stay that way, right? So he's like, Hulk, I don't know how, but it is you, isn't it? Egad, no, I've been found out. I have to escape. Huh? And then the Hulk just jumped up so that he could come right back down on top of Spider-Man. I thought that was funny. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. I don't love the 2-part crossover aspect of it. I did like the Spider-Man Hulk kind of battle part of it. The group, which were called Warzone, pretty lame. That's probably why they never came back. Otherwise, you know, I don't want to say it's a low point of the Peter David run so far, but in a way it kind of is, which is odd because it's got Spider-Man as a guest star. Until next time, we're coming back with Dr. Doom and The Thing. As always, read your comics.